Welcome into episode number 100 of The Voice Behind the Voice. I'm Sean Aronson, the TV and radio broadcaster for the St. Paul Saints, an independent minor league baseball team in the Twin Cities. Well, it took us 99 episodes to kind of figure out, let's try something new. Let's try something different. For those of you that are just listening to the audio on the podcast and you just subscribe to it every week and it comes into your podcast subscriptions, well, nothing's changed for you. But for those of you that see this on Facebook, well, you've noticed that we've added a little video component to this, and we decided let's try to take the open, put it on video, and see what that does. See if we can grow this a little bit more than we already have. People love video, people love photos, people love to see things. I'm not sure if this face here is going to scare people off or not, but I guess we'll find out. And episode number 100 was the best time to try that out. How about this, right? 100 episodes. When I started this nearly 2 years ago, I don't even think I envisioned getting to 100 episodes. I never knew how far this would go. I don't know how long this is going to go, but at least for 100 episodes, this has been quite a ride, and I'm sure a lot of you that are tuned in to episode number 100 maybe tuned in for the very first time because you saw who my guest was, which we'll get to in a minute. There are a couple of things that I want to touch on. Number one, I had someone ask me a question about 7 or 8 weeks ago, and they said, why do these broadcasters agree to come on to your podcast? Right? They're not touting anything. They're not trying to sell anything. They're not really trying to do anything other than chat about who they are. And I thought it was a real good question, right? They're not here to hawk a book or, talk about a movie they're in or anything like that. And I looked at this person and I said, because broadcasters remember what it was like. Okay, this is an interesting industry where someone gave them a break and oftentimes gave them multiple breaks. And so they think, I need to pay it forward. Broadcasters honestly believe that. Maybe a lot of them were failed athletes that didn't get a chance to make it, and so the next best thing that they could do would be talk about it. And they realize what failure is all about. This is an industry, a business with a lot of failure. And so if they can help the next person out any way possible, they will. And so I honestly believe that all these broadcasters have agreed to sit down with me because it is out of the goodness and the kindness of their hearts, and they just want to give back to one of their own, and that's the reason why. Selfishly, as I've talked about a number of times on this podcast, inherently we all have egos, and we like to talk about ourselves. So if you have that opportunity, maybe you will. And so it really has. It's become this fun little dialogue. So I honestly believe that's the reason why that all these broadcasters have done it, right? They're not getting paid. I'm not paying them any money. They're taking time out of their busy schedule, getting ready for a game, oftentimes the day before a game, sometimes the day of games, to sit down with me for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. So that's something that I've taken away from the 100 episodes that we have now released. The second thing I want to do, and this is just a fun little stat, I wrote this down just so I had this. Of all the episodes that we've done, we've interviewed 4 Bobs, 6 Brians, 6 Daves, 8 Johns, 5 Steves, and now 5 Joes. And that gets us to episode number 100. And my guest this week, I wanted to have a big name. I was hoping it would work out. Well, it doesn't get much bigger in this industry than Joe Buck. Obviously, Joe Buck of Fox on the NFL, Fox with Major League Baseball, and Joe is probably the most polarizing broadcaster out there. I will say this. I said this before I sat down with Joe. I will say it afterwards. I've said it to so many people, especially when I told them that I was sitting down with Joe Buck, and I said, I don't get it. I don't get why so many people out there have, hate, vitriol, whatever the words you want to use, and maybe those words are too strong. I don't get it. I don't understand. I've never understood it. And look, this is a 52-minute conversation. I asked Joe for 30 minutes. He gave me 52. Very, very generous. But I don't spend 52 minutes talking to him about how he handles people on social media or how he handles the backlash of who he, how he got this job and everything like that. Like those talks and those stories have been written, right? That they're out there. And I wanted to dig a little bit deeper on Joe Buck. Some of this stuff you may know. A lot of it I hope you don't know. And I hope that for those of you that are tuned in because you do not like Joe Buck, right? I hope this gets you a little bit closer to who the man is, who the person is. It's what we've tried to do for 100 episodes. I really do hope that it gets you closer to who Joe Buck, the person is, not Joe Buck, the broadcaster. And you're going to learn some interesting things. I will tell you this much. I wasn't sure if I was going to ask the question, but I decided to ask the question. And I flat asked him. I said, with everything that you have to deal with and all the negative feedback that you get and all the pressure that's on you, I asked him, do you go to therapy? And so you'll have to find out how he answered that. But it was something I was unsure if I was going to ask him. It was something that was in the back of my mind, and I went for it. You always gauge how the conversation goes. So I went for it, and he was kind enough to answer. I will say one other thing about Joe, and this is really what you need to know about Joe Buck, and I hope I'm not divulging anything about him that he didn't want out there. But we sat down. This was before the Vikings-New Orleans Saints game, right? So this was, I think it was Thursday, and he did the game on Sunday. He was battling vertigo, okay? Like a pretty good case of vertigo, and yet he didn't cancel on me. He still agreed to do this. And so for 52 minutes with the guy battling vertigo, he agreed and was tremendous through the whole time, which if he still was battling vertigo on Sunday when he was doing the Vikings-Saints game, makes it all the more remarkable. It's the things that you never think about. For those of you that are tuned in for the first time, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, or if you've listened to just a few and you have not subscribed, you can do so on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us, please do, on social media. Twitter, @TheVoiceBTV, Facebook, facebook.com/TheVoiceBTV, and you can always email me, thevoicebtv@gmail.com. It's been an incredible ride for 100 episodes. We'll see if we can get to 100 more. I want to thank everybody that has tuned in, that has listened for one or all 100 episodes. So let's get to it. Episode number 100. It is Joe Buck. JW, roll the open.
I worked on a pretty good Barney voice, and everybody always wanted to hear it, which, I mean, I can do easily. I know you're not begging me to do it, but it's, hello again, it's your old friend Barney, that kind of stuff. And so for a costume party one time, I bought online this killer Barney costume, which you could literally have done the show in. It was that good. It wasn't like a fake, like, deflated one. It was big. And the girls, one day they were, I don't know, we were kidding around. I said, be careful, I'm going to pick you up in school in that thing.